Previous class we have seen the standard controller, right? Using the standard controller, how to create a record, and we have seen the standard list controller as well. So standard list controller is used to display the records in pagination manner. Means some records 20. By default pagination size is 20. Okay. So now if you want to extend the functionality, let's say whenever you are creating the record, so usually when you click on save button in the standard control, automatically record will be created, right? So if you want to override that functionality, then how can we go for that? So that you can go for the extension controller. Let's write on ViewState page. So here let's use standard controller. Let's use for account. Now here, as we know that we have to start with form because we are going to save the record. Apex colon page block title equals to account information. Apex colon input field value equals to, we have to do like this, account dot. Okay. Then what are the fields you want to have, like industry, home, whatever the fields you want, you can have here. Say name, use this BR tag. Industry. Now after this I'm going to give apex colon. So there is another thing called page block buttons. Okay. Here if we give page block button, I will show that. Action equals to so this is how you can use the normal standard controller. If you view it, then give the name like real force account one. This industry like whatever you want. Right? Now, if you want to override the functionality of this standard one, let's say if the account name should not contain the test, something you want to validate through the Visual Force, okay? Then what you can do is you can go for the extension controller. So how to write the extension controller? So extension controller is nothing but the Apex class. Okay. So here I'm going to use account extension. Here what you need to use is you have to create a variable which can get the record, whatever the record is getting created, that record should get into this class, then you can write your own. So for that, let's write public account A. So here set get. These are called setters and getter. Okay. So these are much important in Visual Force. It's not much important in other cases. We just go through that. Now what you need to do is, if you want to create the extension controller, the very much important point is constructor should be there. And then in the constructor, what you need to do is, this is parameterized constructor. Apex pages start standard controller. Very much important. Now, if A equals to, so when you create the record, if you use the standard controller itself, then automatically the record will be in the standard controller, not in the extension controller. So now what we are trying to do is, whatever the record is getting created through this standard controller, that we are getting into this one. So how to use this? So use the want to get ID, you can get the ID of the record, or if you want to get the record completely, you can get the record. Okay, here. So you have to concatenate. This will give the S object record, but we need account record. This is called typecasting. Means from one type of object to you are converting into another thing. Like from S object to account we are converting. Okay, you can convert from account to S object also, but it's not like a string to S object or integer to S object like this. You should, so if the record is related to, if it is a record, then it is a subject record, right? Then you can convert only from that to this. Let's say if it is getting the account record here, if you convert to contact or something, it will throw the exception, typecast exception. So you should be careful how to typecast it. Then save method is there in the, actually it is in the standard controller, right? Now what we are trying to do is, we are overriding the functionality. Now what we can do is, so let's say name having name, or if the name is having test keyword, test word, then it is not the valid name, so we have to throw the error. Okay, so for that you have a syntax throw the error. Let me show. Even I don't have I have not been. Have to create a message, new apex page messages. So apex pages dot add message, then new apex pages dot message severity, whatever it is, warning or it is error or it is whatever you want. Since let's say that the severity is, will be like this. So this is confirm, error, fatal, then information. Okay, so usually if it is error, you just add it as a error. Okay, Viewers may ask the question that, so this one, then how to add the error messages. So here as only we have to use reference. If you want to redirect to any record, okay, then what you will do is here after this one, if you give id, automatically it will be related to that record page, right? So here return new page. Now once you create the extension control, parameterized constructor with the standard. Then if you want to get the id of the record, you can get the id of the record, or if you want to get the record completely, you can get it. After that, override the methods of standard controller. So we have methods like edit, cancel, save, quick save, list, all the methods are there. If you want to override all the methods also, you can override. Okay, if we give the functionality, this will only work. So here for testing, so we are just having, if the name contains test, then we have to throw the error message. Let's say, so name should not contains test. Now, so as we are throwing the errors here, how to handle in the Visual Force page. So here what you have to do is apex page messages. Means the record, if it is validated, so if there is any errors, it will display here top of the page. Let's see here. Actually, what happened is we have created the extension controller, but here we have not mentioned it. So the important thing is extensions. Okay, we have to add it here so that we are linking that, right? Otherwise, how it knows that is the extension control, right? So now if you go here, use this count, 1, 2, 3, use this. So name should not contains text. So this is how you have to throw the validations from the controllers to Visual Force. Using the Apex page messages, you have to add this tag here. Then in the controllers, you have to add like this Apex pages dot add message, new Apex pages dot message, severity was the severity. Okay, so these are the group of messages, and this is one message you are adding to this message. Okay, So this Apex Pages is the standard class. Okay. If you want to know about this class, reference class means so where to go if you have everything is succeeded or failed, where you have to go. So that is how it is. Say add message, add messages, then current page, get messages, as messages. So something like this. Okay, all the methods. So I'm keeping this for 2 minutes. Standard set control. Okay, so here actually we have created some Visual Force pages. We have created for pagination, right? So how to use the standard set controller? We have four kind of controllers: standard controller, standard set controller, standard list controller. So this is example for standard list controller. So as previously we have seen standard extension controller, right? So now let's see standard set controller how we are going to use. Okay, now universities, right? University set once you have done like this, same way what you have to do is you have to provide standard set controller. Standard set controller, you have a lot of things how to use the page size. See this. So usually here what you are getting 20 records you are getting by default, right? The page size it will be automatically 20. So if you want to reset that, here all the methods will be there. What should happen if you click on cancel first, as next, as previous, get page size, get records? If you want to get the records of that specific page, you can get it. Okay? So there is not much important for you guys, but try to learn all these things. So last, next, previous, save. So the same way, if you have set page number, let's say if you have 20 page numbers, if you set the page number as 5, then it will be go for page number 5. So if you want to display the set page size, so here let's say if I give 10, then what happens is automatically when this list page is, and then copy this. Now simply it will come 10. Say this. Okay, so what is extension? Extension means something you are adding the functionality to the default functionality, like overriding. Okay, you have already seen a lot of classes which are extended, right? Abstract or something. So there will be functionality. If you want to override, you can use this, right? So that's how the standard set controller is used. So as we have already seen, standard set controller, lot of things are there. Even if we want to override the methods of like previous, next, right? So if you see this standard set controller functionalities. So this is the standard control constructor. So methods are this. So first cancel. So if you click on first, what should go? So we have overridden the save method, right? The same way, if you want to override your own methods like first, next, last, previous, save, so whatever it is, you can override using the standard set controller. Okay, so then whatever the functionality you have overridden, that will be affected on the Visual Force page. Okay, so that is the use of standard set controller. So you should learn what are the methods we have in the standard set controller. So simply you can have the very important thing: last, next, previous, first, cancel, save. So these are the methods, and then if you want to set some conditions and everything, then okay, that is called standard set controller. Okay, so then we'll see how to use the complete extension controller. Let me show here. So for the existing Visual Force page only, we have added extension controller. So we have not changed anything. So default the page size or default records 20 will be displayed for the page nation. And if you want to override that, so any of this method, first method, previous, next, save, whatever you want to override, that can be done through the standard set controller extension. So that you have to create the apex class first here like this. So you should create the parameterized constructor. The parameter should be standard set controller. Then here whatever the thing you have to set values, you can set here. If you want to override the methods of first and next, then you can override all the methods in this class. Okay, so that's about the standard set controller extension, how to use. So the standard set controller is used only in the apex class only, so nowhere else. And standard list controller means it's not a separate controller. Simply if you use the record set var in the Visual Force, then it will be called as standard list controller. There is nothing specific. Okay, so now let's use the extension controller. Okay, how to do the extension controller, sorry, custom controller. Now for custom controller, first what you need to do is you have to create the uh, apex class first. Okay, let's say I need to create account and contact. Usually you cannot create account and contact at a time, right? So you cannot create through the standard page layouts. In those cases, what you can do is you can go for the custom controllers. Okay, the custom controllers are like this. First, what we need to create, you wanted to create account and contact at a time, right? Let's create. First, it should be setter getter means if you want to set a value through the Visual Force, or if you want to get a value from Apex to Visual Force, then you can go for the setters and getters. Set means setting a value. You can override the setters also here. Those are the methods actually. Set and get methods are there. If you want, you can override them. Okay. Just go to the public contact. Now have a constructor first, public constructor. So here you don't need to pass any parameters because it's not a standard, not a standard set controller or standard controller, so it's not extension, right? Simply use like this, then create the values. If acc is null, in the visual force it will throw the null pointer exception. Okay, if contact equals to null, now so there are no methods in the custom controllers, you have to write your own logic. Okay, for saving the record, let's write here. You can write your own method. Okay, create records. Now here, what you can do is, if you want to validate something, if a dot name dot contains, so same way I'm just using test. Okay, so what you have to do is apex pages dot add message. Name. So if you make it return null, means you are returning to the same visual force page. Okay, then use the same. So here, then again, here what you have to do is, so after completing the validations, you need to create the records, right? So if you want to create the contact under the account, first you should have account, right? Now let's say specific page reference, let's say here, let's say if you want to go for this list page, okay, what you can do is you can give like this, slash list. Then what happens is, simply once the record is created, then it will go for that specific list page directly. another Visual Force page, then you have to give slash apex slash Visual Force name. So if you want to go for specific record, then what you can do is, so here we have already done slash then record it. Okay, so if you see this apex slash page, that's it. The same syntax we are giving in the inside the apex also. Okay, now let's create the Visual Force. First we build the base. Now we are going to construct the Visual Force. Create count and contact. So when you are using this, you have to use controller. Instead of standard controller, you have to use the extension controller. So if you mention the extension controller, then only it will be available in the Visual Force. Now, how to use this? Let's use apex colon page messages. If you want to give something like, so you can end here, then it is not required. So after this, apex colon same fields. Tags will be different. Okay, account name. But here, as if you use the standard controller, then you can keep like account. Okay, so if you, as you are using the standard controller, then you can give account dot name. But whenever you are using the custom controller, then you have to use whatever the variable you have declared inside the Apex class, the same variable name you have to use. So here use this ACC. So then only that will be available here. Okay, now okay. So this is the account information. Use the contact information here. Contact information. CON dot last name. CON dot. Let's say if you want to give email, you can give email. Okay. So previously you have seen, not sure what you have to, let's say. If you see this Visual Force page, we have added button, page block button. So what do you mean by page block button? Page block button means usually when a record is created or updated in the page layout, buttons will be on the top as well as on the bottom. That's called page block button. Okay, so as we have given the page block button, page block button means on the top of the page the same button should be displayed, on the bottom of the page also the same button should be displayed. That is the functionality of page block buttons. Okay, so now this one use the same way. What is this? Here it is. Have anything which is starting with page block, that should be in the inside the page block, otherwise it will throw the error. Okay, so here there is no save method, we have our own method called create records. So you have to give this method so now simply try this account information. Account name should not contain test. So it first validate it and then simply return it, right? Now here give some contact name should not contain test. Okay, uses simply as we have redirected to the VisualForce page, it is redirected to here. Okay, so it can go here and try that if the record is created or not. Okay, go ahead and accounts. Yes, my account is got created. Under this my account, you have contact. My contact is created. Okay, so this is how you have to write your own the custom controller. Okay, so check the VisualForce. This is the VisualForce page. So you have to mention controller as the custom controller, then page messages to display the errors, then this other thing. And one more thing is, if you want to call any one of the method from the Apex class, then that can be used command button, then command link, command button or command link. Okay, this can be used, this one. And if you want to know more about that, use this extension. So that can be called from the command button, command link, and even from the hyperlink also you can call this. See this command button, command link, action polar, action support, then action function. Okay, so these are the things we can call. So this I will let you know that command link, command button. So you can try this command link, then action polar, action support, action function. These are called Ajax functions. Okay, so those are very much important. And there is another important point is, let's see, go to crashing course. So there is one thing called view state. Okay, so this is the view state. Okay, the view state means usually it will be enabled. Go to your user setting. enable debug, it is not much important. You enable the development mode first thing. Okay, again you show use state in the development mode. So these two you have to enable. Okay, now these are not much important. Send apex warning emails. So what you have to enable this. Better to enable when you are learning the classes. Okay, because if you enable this, if there are any exceptions in the class, automatically it will send an email with the details. Okay, now save this, refresh it. Okay, now go to the one second. So if you enable development mode, right, it will come like this. Here, if you go to any one of the page, here also you can write the code. Okay, then why ViewState is not displayed here? You have to enable the ViewState errors. ViewState. So view state means actually the size of the total components. Let's say if you have input field, a lot of things are there, form is there. So if you want to get the view state, it should have form. Okay. So the view state information, it should not exceed more than 135 KB. View state. Let me show that. The limitation is maximum is 135 KB. Let's see if it is exceeded. It may be changed. State limitation. Yeah, okay. So previously it was 135 KB. Now it has been extended or it is changed to 170 KB. So what is view state? Let's say if you are querying some records to display in the ViewState page. So that will cost some size, right? If you have 10 records, one record is almost 4 KB or something. If you go to the company information, you will get that information. See this. Where you can get the storage. See this used space. Okay. So one record is, let's say, 7 records are there. 2 KB. Okay, so one record is equals to 2 KB. So if you are having more records, then it will be a problem, right? So that's why, so the maximum is 170 KB. Okay, so maximum visual for view state is 170 KB. If you are returning more records like 1000 records or 50,000 records something, then those cannot be displayed in the visual force. So then it will throw the error called view state error. So they will ask that what is view state error. So view state means actually the components size, like input fields or records whatever you have queried something. So how to avoid the view state errors? So mostly use the read only. There is a annotation called read only if you are displaying the records. So then translation, I mean transient variables you have to use, and the static variables you have to use. I'll let you know this later also. Okay, so use state means you have to learn about what is use state. Okay, that's the max size. Okay, so that is the thing. We just try this and we'll see the other components later. So we have another component like Ajax functions. Ajax functions means like action function, action function, action polar, action support. All of these are called Ajax functions. Okay, so I'll help you to learn about this. And here, let's say if you want to display some message in the visual force, let's say once the record is created, use this. Label. Okay. And contact. See this. By default, the page will be displayed like this, right? This is the information. So you don't want to display this, right? If you don't want to display like this, say first once the records are created, then only this message should be displayed, right? For that, let's have one variable card. Default, I'm making it false. Is success. Now use the same in visual force page like rendered equals to, use this dot. That won't display here. Okay. Once the record is created, this should not display. Then let's use the same field, apex page block. This is not. So actually this is the expression. First exclamatory is expression. Second exclamatory is not. Is, or what you can do is not of. Then let's use 1, 2, 3. into different page, right? Returning to key success equals to true. Then use this. Account and contact records are created. So this is how you have to render or re-render the pages or the components dynamically. Okay, so these are only the important things in the Visual Force. Another important, very much important thing is ViewState error, one thing, and another thing is Ajax functions. Action function, action support, action polar, and action region. 4 are there. Okay, so that I'll explain later. Okay, so for now use this. So this is the custom controller. This is the custom controllers Visual Force page. Okay, so if you want to index them, just use Control A, Shift tab. Control A, Shift tab. So then the index will be fixed and the look and feel will be good.